this video I'm building a walnut whiskey cabinet from this slab. Processing the slabs took me the best part of a day, so I'll just show you the results. The first step afterwards is to rip each piece to final width. I decided to go with a cabinet with an inset door, so each of the shelves will be shorter by 20mm in width, and there's also going to be a vertical divider which I can cut at this stage. The panels were then cross cut to length. The outside panels were cut first, and then 20mm is added to the length because the shelves will be sitting into dados. For assembling the cabinet, I toyed with the idea of a mitered box, but I find large miter box glue ups to be fairly traumatic, so I decided to make my life a little easier. I used a fairly simple butt joint, and dominoes helped to align the cabinet during the glue up. To add the dados to each panel, I used 2 pieces of MDF and placed them on the panels with double-sided tape. The shelf itself can be used between the 2 MDF pieces to ensure that there's a perfect fit. A template bit and a router is used to cut the channel. I always make sure to do this at various steps, working my way down, as the templates can shift if too much is taken too quickly. Between the divider and the side of the cabinet, I wanted 2 thinner shelves which needed to be cut to width at this stage. I decided to add a light to the top of the cabinet, so I used an MDF template again to create a recess so that the light set flush. The light is rechargeable and can be set to turn on by motion detection, so every time the door opens the light can turn on. I'd seen a few cabinets with a rotating shelf and wanted to try my hand at it. Essentially it is a semicircular shelf held in place between a shelf and the bottom of the cabinet with a dowel. I drilled the holes through the round shelf, the shelf inside the cabinet, and a hole halfway through the bottom panel. For the glass to sit nicely on the shelf, I used a 90mm hole as a template and routed a recess into the shelf. I cut the semicircular shape with a jigsaw and then cleaned it up with the sander. I put a rebate on the back side of each of the outer panels to allow the backing panel to sit in place. I had to stop the rebates shy of the ends on the side pieces, as they'd be visible in the assemble cabinet if they went all the way through. It was easier to route the recess for the butt hinges at this stage, as there might not be enough space when the cabinet was glued up. I sanded all the panels at this stage, mostly focusing on the internal panels. I also finished the underside of the shelf and the inside of the bottom panel, as I wouldn't be able to apply oil to them once the cabinet was glued together. At this stage, I think it's important to point out something that's been bothering me. I'm terrible at filming glue ups. I set out with the best intentions and inevitably shit the bed once I'm gluing up. I consistently completely disregard the camera in the heat of the moment. I've frequently taken pieces out of frame, forgot to hit the record button on certain parts, and on a desk video that I made, I had to cut several sections of the process because my arse crack was on show for large periods of time. What I'm trying to get at is I hope that you'll understand when you see some pretty poor footage of glue ups and understand why this is happening. Anyway, for the door, I went with a shaker style door. I used a leftover piece of ash for the panel in the middle. The shaker style door is pretty easy to do with a router table and some tongue and groove router bits. Once the frame was done, I cut the ash to size and sanded it to its finished grit and got the shit angle of the glue up. Sorry. Once the glue dried, the ends of the door can be cleaned up on the table saw. I routed the recess for the butt hinges on the door and cleaned them up with chisel. The door was slightly wide when installed, so I took a shaving off at the table saw for a perfect fit. I used MDF as the back panel and decided to add a veneer. The walnut veneer was glued to the MDF using contact cement. The person who was receiving the cabinet wanted a box that could be kept inside the cabinet, so I made a fairly simple mitered box with a veneered MDF top and walnut splines. I'll shut up for 2 minutes and let you enjoy that, as I've got a video on mitered boxes coming soon. For the box lid and the cabinet door, I made handles by tilting the fence at a slight angle and cut both sides. I cross cut the pieces at the same angle also. I sanded everything up to 180 grit and finished the cabinet and box with Rubio. When gluing the dowel in place for the shelf, I applied some wax to the section that would sit in the rotating shelf, as this helps to give a smoother rotation. Once the glue dried, I trimmed the excess dowel with the flush trim saw, sanded it smooth, and applied some finish. For the final touches, I engraved my logo on the inside of the back panel and drilled and screwed it into place. I fit the door and added a magnetic strip so that the light would be held in place on the top of the cabinet. I added the hinges to the box and also lined the inside of the box with felt. I'll leave you with some finished shots of the cabinet, and as usual, if you enjoyed the video, give us a like and maybe a comment, and if you haven't, please subscribe for future builds. Thanks for watching.